Welcome to Downshift. My name is Matt, and this is the new Lexus TX. It is their biggest, best driving SUV, and as you can imagine with the flagship, there's a lot going on. Today, we're going to show you everything you need to know about the TX. Let's get into it. So the first thing we're going to talk about is what is the TX. Now this is the first TX ever from Lexus, and it replaces the kind of lackluster RXL, which is kind of their mid-size unibody SUV that they stuffed a third row into, but it was really small and it didn't really work. Now if you wanted an SUV that was bigger than that RX, you had to go to a truck-based chassis in your GX or your LX. Now this one, the TX, is built on the same unibody chassis or kind of a car chassis as the Toyota Grand Highlander we reviewed a couple weeks ago. And that Grand Highlander was the biggest Toyota SUV, again unibody, ever made. And this Lexus TX is 2 inches longer than that. And coincidentally, it's 11 inches longer than the RX. So this is a Texas-sized SUV, and coincidentally, it's only sold in North America. But sometimes it's kind of hard to distinguish what these things compete against when they're so new. Well, keep in mind this thing will compete against things like the Acura MDX, the Audi Q7, the BMW X7, kind of, and the Mercedes GLS, sort of. And one of the ways you compare cars is with the engine. Now here, we have the base 350, which gets you a 2.4-liter turbocharged, non-hybridized engine, 4 cylinders of course, 275 horsepower, that's about 10 more than you'll get in this engine in the Grand Highlander from Toyota, and 317 pound-feet. Now there's a couple other flavors of TX that you can get. You can go up to the 500H, which will get you the same 2.4-liter engine that we have here, turbocharged, but you'll get a hybrid system with 2 electric motors. That'll also boost power up to 336 horsepower and 406 pound-feet of torque. You get all-wheel drive as standard there, and you'll get about 27-ish mpg combined, like about 1 more than the Grand Highlander with that engine. And then, soon to come out, will be the 550H Plus, which will be the plug-in V6 3.5-liter twin turbo, and that'll have just over 400 horsepower and an electric range of about 33 miles. So some good options here from the Lexus. But we're hearing a lot about hybrids in this new TX, so this being the only non-hybridized one that you can get, what's your fuel economy look like? Well again, here on this 350, you're going to get about 23 mpg combined according to the EPA. If you go up to the 500H, the normal hybrid, that goes up to 27 mpg combined. And if you want that 550H Plus, you're looking at about 29 mpg combined, which is pretty good, especially over 400 horsepower. And like I said, 33 miles of fully electric range on a full charge. Another thing to note here is the base TX 350 powertrain that we have here comes standard as front-wheel drive. I mean, all of the Mazda SUVs now and all of the Subaru cars are all-wheel drive as standard. Kind of, come on, Lexus. Now, all-wheel drive or direct 4 will be standard in your 500H and your 550H Plus, but on your 350, you're gonna have to pay a couple grand to get all-wheel drive. And there's also a couple other places that the 350 loses out. The 350 here is the only one that can't be had with the F-Sport package. There's 2 F-Sport packages. There's a premium and a luxury for the 500H and I believe the 550H Plus, but don't quote me on that. So that means then you don't get adaptive suspension and you don't get rear steer, which makes this thing really feel kind of big because, well, it is. But then I want to talk about the looks itself. Now this thing is handsome, but not quite as handsome as the MDX, but that's just one man's opinion. You do get this really interesting body-colored grille though. We're used to seeing Lexus's spindle grille up front, and this is, you can't even call it a frameless design, it's just kind of integrated into the front bumper. I don't know how I feel about it, but at least it is interesting. Now up here, obviously, you have LEDs as standard, as you might expect. You've also got fog lights down here in the bottom. But from the front, the way that the nose is shaped, it's very flat on the front and very flat on top. It reminds me a lot of the Cadillac Escalade that we've driven, and that hood, it's a little hard to see over, especially if you're in something like a parking lot or your driveway. But the profile shape is very classic boxy SUV. You've got the upgraded 22-inch wheels. These are a couple $1,000s, but they're pretty cool. And then in terms of your door handles, you do have touch-sensitive lock-unlock on the front and the rear. That's pretty cool. These are the digi door handles, so they don't actually move. You just press this button and it releases. And it's the same thing on the interior. You push this in, and it'll electronically release the door. If for whatever reason your battery dies, this is a mechanical failsafe that you can pull, and it'll unlock and open the door as well. And then around the rear, you can see that, again, the kind of boxy classic SUV shape continues. And that is good because it makes for the most headroom that you can get in the second and third row, the most cargo space. You get kind of like a floating chrome window detail there, and you've got the full width Lexus, very minimal L light bar in the back. Lexus spelled out, badge, and then even though this is the only non-hybrid, you don't get exposed exhaust tips. Your exhaust is under there tucked up, but you can't see it. But while we're down here, let's talk towing. Now, interestingly, this is the least powerful, but this still gets 5,000 pounds of towing capacity. And all of the TXs get 5,000 pounds in your 500H and your 550H Plus, so not bad. And then we'll check out the trunk. You do have kick gesture. It is, of course, powered, obviously, and it's pretty nice. It's actually quite big for a 3-row. You think about things like the MDX, which has a smaller trunk, but this thing has 20 cubic feet with the 3rd row up. The 3rd row does electronically fold away, which is pretty cool. And with that down, you get about 57 cubic feet of space. If you want max capacity, you'll put down the 2nd row, which you have to do from up there, but that'll get you 97 cubic feet of space. And I believe that is class leading, and that is very, very big. Now you will get a full-size spare tire on the outside of the body down here, but you won't get it on your 550H Plus plug-in hybrid. And we're gonna go and check out the 3rd row. Now, it's semi-automatic, so you push this button here, it'll electronically unlatch itself, and then you can kind of push it out of the way. Now, if you have a baby seat here, that may be an issue, but there is a bar that you can grab under here and kind of manually scoot it forward if that helps. But with the seats down, or with the seat out of the way, it's fairly easy to get in here. And again, this is the big focus for this TX, is that 3rd row space. I'm 6'1", I've got about 2 inches of knee room. That is pretty good. I will take that. And you also get some nice stuff. You get some vents back here and some lights. You don't get this in the Acura MDX. You've got USB-C charging. It's a very, very elaborate thing here, but you do have it, which is nice. You've got cup holders, and interestingly, power recline in your 3rd row. Check this out. I mean, that's kind of amazing. One thing it doesn't have is a heated 3rd row, which I think is interesting because the Hyundai Palisade offers a heated 3rd row, although no one else does, so the Palisade is just doing the most, perhaps. But one thing you might notice is the fact that you only have 2 seats back here versus the Grand Highlander. You can get 3 or have 3 seat belts. And this is, of course, intended for the fact that you can just have a little bit more space to yourself back here in your 3rd row. But like I said, even myself at 6'1", I can fit comfortably back here if I want to. But let's talk about the 2nd row then. So let's start here, actually. Now you can see you've got a nice Mark Levinson speaker here, very nice materials. You do have a manual sunshade. This I might start to maybe wish was automatic, but at least you have it here, so that's pretty nice. I guess I'll leave it. You come inside, and look, you got a massive panoramic roof letting in all this light to this otherwise dark chocolate interior. Close the door. Again, I'm 6'1". Couple inches of knee room. This is pretty good. It does feel maybe a smidge tighter than the Grand Highlander 2nd row, but otherwise pretty okay. Again, at over 6 feet, I can fit comfortably back here. You do have some nice stuff. Oh, one thing I don't love is the fact that you have manual seat controls. Again, kind of like the window shades, I might expect automatic on something in this class. So just something to note. Maybe it bothers you, maybe it doesn't. It's definitely not a deal breaker, or it shouldn't be. But you do have really nice stuff like heated and cooled seats back here. You've got your own climate zone back here, dual USB-Cs. You've, again, got vents, and you've got the same kind of center cubby thing that you did in the Grand Highlander. It is removable, and for whatever reason, so are the cup holders themselves. Now, they don't fit my big water bottle, which is something that I praise the Grand Highlander for. So this is a bit of a step down in my opinion, but I guess it's nice if you got kids and these get all dirty or whatever, then you can take them out and wash them. And I guess you could probably stuff a big water bottle in here, it just won't be tight. And I almost forgot to mention, in your 2nd row, you can either option the captain's chairs, which is what we have here, or you can get a bench seat, but you can only get the bench seat on the base 350 like we have here. So the rear seats have some nice amenities like heated and cooled seats, but what about the front seats? Again, really nice materials. Look at this. You've got this kind of micro suede, which is great. Some contrast stitching, really supple leathers, very Lexus stuff that you're used to. Kind of a chocolate interior, very nice leather, Mark Levinson. I feel like this is a little unnecessary, kind of makes the cabin feel a little bit smaller. But anyway, we're talking about luxuries. Now, where do you think your heated and cooled seat and stuff are? Because you have them, well, you have to go into here, and then you can adjust them. Now you do have auto settings, and there's 2 levels for your heated steering wheel, 3 levels for your heated and cooled seat. Again, auto, but if you want to go into your climate stuff, you'll go to settings, climate, and then you do have climate concierge, which will take care of pretty much everything for you. Very nice. You've also got, eco climate for, better fuel economy and all sorts of stuff. But you do have some pretty nice stuff. No massage seat, but heated, cooled, heated steering wheel. You love to see it. And then down here, we've got a wireless phone charger. It works, it's pretty good. The Grand Highlander had one kind of stuff to the side, and then this was just kind of like an additional storage area. You kind of have something similar to that here, but it's not quite as big. But what you do have here, which is kind of nice, is a secret compartment. You've got little secret storage down here for contraband, as well as a 12-volt outlet if you're old school. Now we have to talk about the head-up display because it is very integral to the functioning of this car. Your head-up display works with your touch-sensitive buttons on your steering wheel, or at least it would if they were working. Caveat here for this video, this is a pre-production vehicle, so there are some little things that are a little bit strange here. One, and I mean, we've done a couple Lexus reviews, we know that the system works pretty well on the NX, the RX, and a couple others that we've reviewed. These are touch-sensitive pads, and they mirror what you can adjust and customize in your head-up display. So you can do stuff like media, you can do stuff like your adaptive cruise and your Toyota or Lexus Safety Sense 3.0, which we'll talk about a little bit later. But your head-up display is very important for the driving experience. And then as we come down from our head-up display, we have our digital gauge cluster. Now, you can tell this is some of the pre-production stuff going on. So what I'm suspecting is happening is there's some sort of issue connecting the steering wheel. And so some of the buttons that I would normally use to adjust the head-up display and make some customizations like that just aren't working. So again, pre-production stuff, they'll have this all totally figured out, but just something that we'll talk about. This is the first fully and completely digital cluster that we've seen on a Lexus. Other ones have been close. It's been like digital and then like a couple analog bars on the side, but this is the first fully and comprehensively digital instrument cluster. But as far as I can tell, it doesn't really change a whole lot. The most that it really changes is with the drive modes, which we'll show you in a little bit. But for now, we're going to talk about your infotainment screen. Now, this is one thing that we're very familiar with. This is the 14-inch screen that we've seen in the Tundra and basically everything since then. It's running wireless Apple CarPlay, Android Auto, awesome stuff, over-the-air updates, so it's always pretty current and nice. And the interesting thing is we did talk about the climate. You kind of do have to go to the settings thing to get the full menu to pop up, but everything is pretty automatic. So you can just leave it in climate concierge or auto and it'll kind of take care of itself. So it is still pretty nice. One of my favorite things is of course the 360 camera that you get when you throw it in reverse, and even when you go into drive, it stays up, it puts the front-facing camera on. This is an underrated feature, love that. But of course, in classic Lexus Toyota fashion, you press the little button down here for your camera and you get the useless egg view. I know this is like a 360 scan, I don't know who it's helping. You can also see under the car. Not super helpful for anyone in my opinion, but I guess it's nice to have it. And next to that, you have this park button. So this thing will auto parallel and perpendicular park for you, which is pretty cool. We tested that in the NX. Now I want to talk about drive modes. Usually they'd be down here. You have this trail mode, which is kind of your off-road mode, which just kind of shows up green in your instrument cluster. This is probably the least used mode, or the mode that's going to be used the least, I should say. If you want to adjust your drive modes outside of that, you have to go here, press the little car icon, press the little car icon, and then you can select normal, sport, eco, custom. I'm really sorry for the flashing on the screen. This is just the way it's coming through the phone, but you have to go into your vehicle option to then adjust your drive mode, which I think is just kind of silly. And then I want to talk about the safety suite. Now this is rocking Lexus's 3.0 most updated system, but again, due to the pre-production, it's having a bit of an attitude today. I'm not going to be able to show you, but lane keep, adaptive cruise, it all works very, very well, and you can control it in here. So it's a very nice system. We've tested it on a handful of other Lexuses even this year, so Very good system. And last thing we'll talk about, as it always is price. Now, like I said, the 350, the base TX that we have here, can come standard as front-wheel drive. That's gonna set you back $55,000 to start. If you wanna upgrade to all-wheel drive, it's gonna run you another $1,500. So the all-wheel drive 350 starts at $56,650. As tested, this thing is just peaking about $70,000, but it's got a bunch of equipment on it. If you wanted to go up to the 500H and get the hybrid component with the better fuel economy and more power, that's going to start at $69,000. And then the 550H Plus, the big power performance one, well, we don't know quite yet. But until we do, let's grab the key and go for a drive. That's annoying that I have to go into the screen to select sport mode, but here we go. Yes. Yes. Okay. Well, I guess we'll leave it in sport because we're gonna do this corner here. But this doesn't have the F Sport package. The 350 can't get the F Sport package, so there's quite a bit of lean, a little bit of understeer. Yeah, this thing doesn't love being driven hard. And again, that's not really the point of this thing. This is the base powertrain, 275 horsepower, 317 pound-feet of torque. 0 to 60 is kind of slow. It doesn't love to turn hard, but this is a big Lexus 3-row family SUV, so it shouldn't really need to be doing any of that stuff anyway. But the rest of it is good news, because Lexus stuff is still Lexus-y in here. The cabin feels substantial. All of the stuff that you interact with is really high quality materials. The leathers, the suede, all of the stuff is really pretty good. There are a couple issues that I have though. One, with this thing being so big, and maybe the fact that it doesn't have the hybrid stuff, you're not getting any regen on braking, you're not getting any additional retardation, so the brakes do feel a little bit weak. You have to kind of really get into them, or you have to start braking pretty early. Just something that maybe I've noticed, but it does feel like this and the Grand Highlander could use some bitier brakes. Additionally, with it not being a hybrid, is you don't have any of that immediate electrical torque coming in, that kind of 0 RPM power. So when you pull away, you are kind of waiting for boost pressure, you're waiting for the turbo to spool, so it does feel a little bit lazier than the hybrid probably will with its 2 electric motors. And then, I'm gonna be a little bit quiet, I'm gonna see if you can hear something. Can you hear that wind noise? There's some wind howling over and it's not coming off of the A-pillars, it's coming off like the center of the roof, right above the windshield, kind of like right around here. I have no idea what that is. I don't know if it's part of the pre-production thing, but that is in fairness, that's really kind of the only non-Lexus-y thing about the driving experience. The steering is pretty decent, the body control is pretty good, although it would be nice to have the F Sport package to kind of firm and, kind of discipline things a little bit more, but overall, it's easy to drive, and I think that's exactly what people are going to be looking for. If it was me and my money though, I would probably go for the 500H. I would probably go for the hybrid, at least until I can try that 3.5 twin turbo V6 plug-in hybrid with over 400 horsepower. But with that, let's get into the final thoughts. So those are the 20 things you need to know about the Lexus TX. Now, if you're interested in how this thing stacks up to its competition, namely the Acura MDX, be sure to check out our video live on the channel now with the best and the rest. We'll see you there.